Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Conversations for Course Creators. My name is Lucas Marino, your host, and I'm excited to talk to you guys today about script writing for courses. Now, if you're going, oh great, script writing, hold on a second. There is a lot to consider here, and if you are a writer, which many of you are, because that's primarily who I end up serving in course creation, but if you're a writer, you may think you have a leg up here, right? Like, oh yeah, I can manage writing scripts. And if you're not a writer, you may think, oh my gosh, writing scripts sounds like a real challenge. Well, I'm here to tell you we can have this conversation with both audiences and set you both at ease with that conversation here in just a minute. It's gonna be a good one. It's an interesting little part of the book. So. Before we do that, though, I did want to talk about the Monetize Your Book with a Course community, which is now live at www.marinotraining.com. I encourage you guys to go check it out. Yes, I do offer a free trial, so you'll be able to make a no-risk initial investment of free to test it out. It is a private community for nonfiction authors creating courses. If you're not a nonfiction author and you aspire to be one, come on in. We'd love to have you. We have exclusive access to private live sessions, lessons, some course material, a resource library for you. We discuss book projects, course projects, curriculum development, tech tools, all the things that are involved in writing books and then converting them to courses or having courses and converting them to books. And I would love to have you guys there. This is my one private community that I manage in the Marino training world. And it's just a little pet project of mine that has been super rewarding for me. And I cannot wait to see you there. So please consider joining us. Okay. Now, let's talk a bit about these scripts, okay? So if you're following along in the book, if you're looking at the Monetize Your Book with a Course book, we're on page 21, and this section of the book is titled Script Writing or Nah, right? It's like, should I do this or should I not do this? And I get this question a lot for various reasons. I want to touch on those before we get into the technical sides of this conversation. Certain people are interested in taking their existing work and converting it into new products. And so when they ask if they should use scripts, oftentimes they're asking, should I just use my book? Okay. And so the answer is use that as a foundation. Okay. So if you're a nonfiction author and you're considering using your book to develop scripts for your course, I give you a big thumbs up, but I say do not create a exact copy of your book for several reasons. So one is we have to go through that whole process of building a solid course foundation, right? Which we talked about that in earlier episodes of the show. This is also something I cover extensively in the Monetize Your Book with a Course program, the online course. And we talk about it in the live Q&As for that course quite frequently. So you want to make sure that you're serving the learner properly. And if the content in your book is also relevant to the course in that regard, like a course student or learner should have this information from the book in their course, then the answer is yes, you can use your book content as a starting point for your script. Just know that it's not going to be a word for word. Okay, you're not just going to read your book basically like an audiobook and call that a course. I encourage you to create an audiobook, but that's not a course, right? So yes, you can use your existing written content for a script. In fact, I'm doing this right now. So I have a copy of my book open on my screen, and you can tell that I'm looking at you and I'm speaking, and I'm not using the same, I don't want to say language, but I'm not reading to you, right? But I am using my book content as an outline and a segment of key points to discuss with you in this episode. So in some ways, I'm using my book as an outline and a guide rather than a script. And I'm giving you that as an example that you can use as an alternative to using a script. Okay, so when should you do this? Well, it depends on you It depends on the student and it depends on the type of course. But let's talk about you for a second. So if you're the speaker, you're the one doing the teaching, you're the one doing the reading, we have to ask, can you do this well? If you're using a script, can you read naturally, or does it sound like you're reading a script? Okay. So no matter how great a script is, if you can't perform with that script and speak naturally via that script, then it's going to come across as a lower quality than you intend, right? People are not going to enjoy that experience. I've experienced this with some audiobooks produced by famous people who do their own audio in their audiobook, but they're not good narrators. They're not good readers. And it doesn't sound as appealing. I'm like, yeah, it's cool that I get to hear this famous person I really dig read their book to me, but it doesn't sound like good narration. It doesn't sound natural. So if you're going to use scripts, one, you have to be a natural reader. You have to have a good practice for reading aloud, whether it be on video or audio. So that's number one. Number two is if you can focus on delivering solid audio performance, you're going to be in a good spot. So regardless of whether you want to create an audio course or a video-based course, both of those rely heavily on audio performance. See what I'm saying? So if you have a script and it's just an audio-based course, you have some freedom because obviously there's no camera watching you read, right? So it's all about the audio performance at that point. If you ratchet it up a notch and you have video-based content and you're still doing the narrated via script, then you have to do both. Right? You have to be able to use the script while looking into a camera. Normally that's going to require some type of teleprompter. Okay? Because what you don't want is this, and I'm going to do this as an example for you. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see that I'm going to look at a screen and read a small segment of a couple of sentences of my book for you so that you can see how this would not translate well on video. Okay. So bear with me. By the way, it's good to hear anyways. Video is trickier. If you choose to use scripts for video, consider using a teleprompter. A teleprompter or teleprompter app prevents you from flipping or holding pages or reaching out, every 20 seconds while you read to move a sheet or a note on your desk. So you could see in the video that I'm looking away from the camera. I'm speaking a little differently, even though it was a solid performance besides my one error, right, that you guys may have noted in there. It's still not something I necessarily want to watch. I'm cool with hearing it. I just don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch someone read off of a monitor, right? So you have to have a teleprompter or some type of teleprompting app, which you can get on smartphones or laptops or whatever, and you need it within close proximity to the lens of your camera so that you're looking in that direction while you're reading, and it doesn't look like you're doing this or that you're looking off camera to read like I was in that example. Okay, so if you don't want to read a script during your video lesson, you may choose to use your script as a primer. Okay, so let's say you do script it so that you can get the language in your head, the flow of the conversation. You can use a script as a primer for the video lesson. I like to do this with my book content. Before I came on here, I sat down and I read the 2 pages of my book that are relevant to this topic to get my brain primed for the discussion, to load it with all of the key elements. And then I can move into talking without having to read from a script and deliver a decent video, right? So I use a script sometimes for those purposes. Now, if you're going, well, you said a book and then you said a script. If you're using a book, that's great. Read the 2 pages of your book, then make your video. But if you don't have a book, you may write a script, use that as a primer, right? And then go deliver your video just like I'm doing here, where I'm looking directly into the lens, not reading, just delivering content. Now, if you aren't comfortable writing a full script, you can use a well-defined outline for that same purpose. So you can create an outline, fill it with all the great points that you're going to discuss, run your eyes over it several times, get that outline in your head, prop the outline up near your camera or just below your camera so you can just quick reference it, and then rock and roll. I use sticky notes sometimes on my monitor just below my camera. I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage with this current configuration of my office because my camera is actually mounted above my monitors. So if I'm looking anywhere but directly into the lens, there's something on the monitor, like a sticky note up here, or something on the screen that I'm using as a guide, or a note or some type of guide for the conversation. Okay. So I do this often. I like to do it in bullet points. And then if I'm using my book, I'll just read the content. Okay. So regardless of whether you read from a script or you choose to only use notes, you're going to end up doing multiple takes, right? Don't expect that even with the script, you're just going to zip right through your course and you're going to make very little errors in your reading and everything's going to work out just as smooth as can be on the first run. Prepare yourself for multiple takes. That's normal. That's not a hit on you as a performer or not a hit on you as someone recording video. That's actually standard. I would be wildly surprised if that wasn't the case for you. So don't beat yourself up when it takes you several tries to make your short video. It's just part of the game. This is the nature of video. This is what we're doing. We're creating video off of a written document, and you're gonna more than likely end up making multiple passes at that. Okay, so let's say you do decide to write a script for your video. You don't need to write it like a book. Okay, I wanna get this point across because I do have clients that hire me to write scripts from their books for them to read in animated videos or audio takes or on video with teleprompters. And when we take their content from their book to create scripts, one of the things that we have to make sure they understand right from the start is that a script should read naturally and should be more relaxed and less formal than your published book. So you don't have to have this polished, proofread, highly edited piece of work before you start reading from your script. If you're like an uber detailed person and that just sounds like it would drive you nuts not having a fully polished script, knock yourself out. That's fine. But it still has to come across as natural. All I'm telling you is you don't need it. Okay. And when I did my first set of scripts for Thinkific, actually, created some scripts for some training programs that they created for themselves for some Thinkific Academy courses. We did some copywriting for them and I wrote a bunch of scripts. And the one bit of feedback they gave me was, hey, it needs to be a little more relaxed and more conversational. And that was hard for me because I was writing instead of thinking like speaking. And I was being very succinct and I didn't have much so or well and these kind of like lead-in words to these sentences that I try to eliminate in my writing. They were dropping those all in there because they wanted it to come across as a very natural presentation. So this gets you away from sounding like you're reading a script. It makes it more natural. It's more appealing to the ear. And people feel like they're having an honest conversation with you when you can deliver a script that is written like you're speaking. It still has to, make sense. It has to be logical. The flow of the information has to be right. But you don't have to feel like you have to have this polished, highly edited piece of work before you can call it a script and send it on down the road for video. Okay. The big thing with your course is, and especially if you're scripting, is to make sure that you understand you're on the hook for several things when you make videos or when you do audio files. They want to be entertained and they want to be educated. So if you make a script that's too dry, too cut to the point, you're missing the whole entertained part. And if you make a script that's just all entertainment and no education, you're missing the education part. And so to really fulfill your learner, you need to have a little bit of both. And this is one of the reasons why, if you've taken any of my courses, you'll note that my videos are very conversational, much like this podcast is, where I'm talking with you about a topic that I'm very involved with in that lesson. and we go into all the details, but it's a very relaxed kind of sitting across the table, having a very casual conversation with a professional consultant or coach type environment. I'm never going to lecture somebody on exactly how to write or how to speak on camera for their audience. I think you need to know your audience better than I do, and you know what they want to hear and see, and you know what you want to show them about your brand and your presence. Like, I don't want to be known as a cold kind of by the line speaker or course provider. If anything, I want someone to say, hey man, thanks for the great course. I felt like I got to know you better, and I got an education, and the videos were engaging. Because it's hard enough to keep people engaged in video, period, right? It's like after a while, you're giving them so much information that their brain starts to fog up a little bit, right? You start to get a little bit of mush. Having some inflection in your voice and natural eye contact and a naturally paced conversation is very important. So make sure you focus on those things if you use a script in your course, that even though it's scripted, you're delivering a very natural performance. Okay. So how do you get into the writing of the script? I'm not going to lecture you on exactly how to do this. I will give you two ways that I do this. One, you can take your book, you can take the content of your book that is an absolute must-have, and you can copy that right out of your book, put it into a document, and then fill around that information and edit that information to make it more conversational, right? We're not trying to filler. We're not using filler here. We're not trying to fill a container because we have to use space. That's not what we're doing here. We want to take that really critical information. We want to make it, we want to put it on paper in a written word, and then we want to make it a little more relaxed than the book normally. Normally people don't write as casually as they speak. And we want to present that information to them without a bunch of interference, right? So we don't want a script that just drones on and on about all these other things. Like, we got to get right to the point, but we want it to be conversational. You can use that information right out of your book. This works really well. Now, for people that don't have content already written, now you can use blogs. You can use, so back it up a little bit. You have the book, you can use blogs, you can have articles you've used, you can have anything you've ever created written word wise that is relevant to that topic, you can use as input for your script. One of the things I like to do for script writing, if I don't have written content yet and I don't want to write content, is I'll do a transcribed file from Otter, right? So otter.ai is a software that offers a free account, and it basically, you can speak into your smartphone and it will transcribe your conversation. Then what I do is I download the text file from that into a document, and I will take that transcript and I'll clean it up and use that as my script. So I'll eliminate unnecessary words, organize the sentences so that they flow properly, make sure everything's where it needs to be. I've got all the information in there, give a little intro, put a conclusion on it, and then use that as my script. So there you go. There's a few ideas. You can take content out of your written documents and use that as a foundation for your script, or you can transcribe a conversation or a lesson that you're giving, and you can use that as a script as well. If your wheels are turning a little bit on the transcription part and you're wondering, can I use video that I've created in the past or audio files that I created in the past? The answer is yes. You can actually use software like otter.ai, and you can run it while you're playing the video on your monitor. You can walk away. Otter will capture the audio as it comes through your speakers on your computer. It will transcribe it. Then you can download that text file, clean it up, and use that. Okay? Of course, if you already have the video loaded somewhere that provides a transcript like Riverside or Descript, there's a couple of software out there that are pretty popular for this, then you can obviously use the transcripts from those software. But if you don't have a software that provides you with that, you can play the video into a microphone on your smartphone, capture it in otter.ai, and then use that to create the transcript, clean up the transcript, and have a script. So, okay, that is today's discussion about scripting. I hope that is helpful to you. If your brain is spinning a little bit, you just take a moment to listen to it again. Remember to keep this all very basic and simple. You have options. Pick the ones that work best for you. And never forget that you're creating this content for your learner, and that this is all about providing them with the best package possible, the best product, the best experience that you can give them. And sometimes scripts help us do exactly that. All right, guys, I'm going to leave you with this last note. Please head on over to www.marinotraining.com. Check out the new community. Check out the book. Check out the courses. Reach out to me via email. Get on my newsletter. I send out a newsletter every week. And it's just one of my favorite things to do is to write and release those newsletters. And I have a tremendously strong response to them. My open rates are phenomenal. They're like triple the industry average. And that's because they're very much focused on delivering content and value. And they're not just a huge pitch fest. So go check out the newsletter. Sign up for it if you're not already on it. I'll put a link to the newsletter in the show notes. Make sure you check out the community. We'd love to have you. And by all means, pick up the book and the course and get to it, man. I want you guys to have a course sooner rather than later. Okay, guys, see you in the next episode.